And we are live. What's happening, peeps? I think my mic's a bit hot here. Let me turn it down slightly. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. How we doing? Yeah, I had to skip that undercard because it was trash for the most part. I did watch a few of the fights. I saw Zack Chel upset David Morell. We can talk about that. Also, Liam Cameron getting knocked out again. But first of all, big up everyone locked in. Dominica encircled. David Fisher. Hamsand. Kira Malcolm. McNoctus. Golden Times. Tech. Knifeart. Luca. Who else we got in here? Mighty Meatball. Lovely Days. You got Declan McKenna. Mymar, big up Mymar. Chris Santos, Warts, Goozy. Kylie, yes, salute, salute. Joshua Hooker. We got KS in the place. Alexander, Ocean Blue, Simon Kirk. Metina Bib, shout out to you. Fernie G, yes, yes. Shout out to Mike. We got Rob Lee. Shadab Khan, big up. That's right, Robert Guilford. Or Gifford, excuse me. From an undisclosed location in Africa. Simon Kirk says, Michael Ofo on TV right now, hilarious guy. Yeah, Michael Ofo is maybe one of the funniest trolls in boxing. The way he was going at Sam Jones in that presser. Big up Celtic boxing fan, Lord McCormick. Big up, respect. Yes, yes, Kizzy. Shout out to Wallace. So we can start off with Jellov, actually. I didn't see anything but a few seconds of the Mike Perez bout, but it didn't look particularly interesting. I saw a few rounds of the Jellov fight, including the final round. And yeah, Jellov looked very pedestrian. The fight looked like a very casual sparring session. It didn't even look like a fight. Jellov, to me, seems to be suffering from staying amateur far too long. And what I mean by that is he's too used to either knocking you out or coasting to a 3-round points win. In professional boxing, of course, you have to have a third phase of your game where you either win on points over the long haul, 10 or 12, or you break an opponent down. And Jellov is a puncher. So you have to learn the art of breaking a guy down. Jellov doesn't seem to have that because of all this time spent in the amateurs where you don't need to break anybody down. All you need to do is, as I say, either knock him out or just keep him at arm's length when you're 6'7" like he is for 3 rounds and you get the W. I mean, to be fair, the guy that he fought did hurt Ajit Caballel very badly when they fought a few years ago. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. It's up on YouTube. Caballel was hurt quite badly in that fight. Obviously, Jellov didn't get hurt. Although it was a kind of strange ending because, yeah, he was landing some big shots, but the opponent didn't seem to want to be pulled out of there. But then again, who knows, right? But, yeah, he was just pulled out by his corner. The fight was stopped. And before that, the referee started having a look at him, which I'm not quite sure why or what that was all about. Isaac says, do I have a problem with Inoue? You never talk about him. I've talked about him several times. I've done videos about Inoue, but, you know, it's no secret those lighter weight classes are not my favorite. And with Inoue specifically, the problem with him is I feel like I know what's going to happen before every single fight. Do you know what I mean? So, like, where's the intrigue and interest when I feel like I know what's going to happen before every one of his fights? People were talking up the Nakatani fight. I never expected anything other than an Inoue victory. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I wasn't excited for it. They talked it up and they built Nakatani up as this monster in his own right, but I don't know, man. I never really saw it. Shout out to KO Kid Boxing. He says, had a good one on the bookies today, so big up Hatman. Thanks for all the entertainment, entertainment over the years, especially the night flights. Hey, big up KO Kid Boxing. Much appreciate you for the super chat. Okay. Flair says, referee checked his vision. Doctor was telling him if he can see. Yeah, I remember that part. But yeah, getting back to Jellov, big up Craig, Welsh Boxer again. Big up KO Kid Boxing. Much appreciated. With Jellov, he just seems like a guy that's stayed amateur for far too long. He's been pro actually now for what, 6 or 7 years? When he turned pro, it's crazy. Is it 6 years now that he turned pro? But he's been amateur concurrent with his pro career, which is very strange. If we want to play devil's advocate a little bit, we can say, okay, Jellov took the fight on relatively short notice. The guy was a southpaw. He's based in the United States, Jellov. Maybe he was jet lagged. And the guy that he fought was an individual that hurt Ajit Caballel several years ago when he fought him. So, again, if you want to play devil's advocate, you could say that. But it wasn't an impressive performance. Jellov looked uninspired. It was pedestrian. And by the way, there's a lot of people saying they didn't like the Simon Jordan Cauldron segment after the Wardley Dubois weigh-in. I actually quite liked it a lot. Or should I say liked it a lot. It was a bit long-winded. They could have, shortened it a bit. But I like Simon Jordan's presence up there. I like the questions. Some people say the questions were wasted on Daniel Dubois, but I think that's part of what the fun was. Dubois was giving these very unsatisfying answers. People talking about the Rafity Esimman fight, which I'm barely watching here. You got battered by Jack Catterall last time out. It's round 4 against Rafity, and it looks like he's getting battered here too. When you got the kind of style that Esimman has, you're going to have a pretty short shelf life. Because he's extremely high volume, trades on toughness and what have you. And those guys don't tend to last over the long haul. But we'll see if Esimman can turn it around here. So yeah, Jellov not impressive. But it's not like he got beat or came close to getting beat. It's not like he got hurt or anything. He just didn't look like the heir apparent, you know? Didn't live up to the amateur background and all the credentials he's got. So we'll have to see what happens with him. Now, as far as the Zack Chel, David Morell fight, David Morell has looked like absolute trash in every fight he's had at 175. He's looked terrible in every fight, even before he fought Benavidez. So if he looked trash at 175 before he fought Benavidez, the beating that Benavidez put on him, and it was a hellacious beating, that's not going to have made him any better, is it? It's going to have made him worse. It's going to have taken something out of him. So, yeah, he looked terrible in every fight at 175. Even worse. You guys see the fight he had after Benavidez? He looked even worse there. And this was an all-time low, obviously, getting stopped by Zack Chel in the final round of this fight. He looked bad in the preceding rounds. He was getting hit with the right hand from Chel time and time again. Defense was nowhere to be seen. The destructive power that he had or seemingly had at 168 has evaporated. And was knocked out cold. I mean, I saw some people saying it was a typical British stoppage. I think they need to go back and watch that stoppage again, because Morell was literally out cold on his feet. I mean, he was out. So, yeah, that wasn't an example of a quote-unquote typical British stoppage. That was a very good stoppage. Big up FIFA, he says, Zack Chel, congrats. Happy for him. Big up FIFA Junior. Yeah, Zack Chel, if I can be a little facetious and trolly for a second, I call Zack Chel the Timu George Groves. He kind of reminds me of George Groves a little bit as a fighter, but obviously a much lower level version. So the Timu George Groves goes in there and gets the KO over David Morell. Wild. That's right, Crypt Talk. Morell was completely out. Dominica says Zack Chel called out Canelo and Benavidez. Yeah, that's ambitious. Will we get Chel versus... who could Chel fight now? Callum Smith. Because David Morell was about to fight Callum Smith, right? Will we get Zack Chel versus Callum Smith? Isaac Bling says Ben Whitaker. Yup. That's doable. Big up KO Kid Boxing. He says, off topic, but one of the best feelings is locking up the gym on a Friday night, getting into my car, and seeing a night flight has started. Straight up vibes for the drive home. Hey, big up KO Kid Boxing. I'm glad you appreciate the night flights. A lot of people like him. The whole night flight concept. I find it relaxing, kicking back, chewing the fat. King Khan says, when's the ring walk? I think this is the penultimate fight. The Echo Esimman fight on right now. It's been a very, very long card. I'm really not sure why it's been this long. Most of the fights have been rubbish. Shout out to the Sweet Maths for the super chat. He says, Wardley would be lethal in a street fight. He absolutely would be. Because street fights tend to be very short and high intensity. The red mist comes down and it's just a swing up. And that's what Fabio Wardley specializes in. He's got this incredible knack, Wardley, of when he gets hurt and his opponent gets excited and goes in for the finish, of managing to catch them when they're coming at him, you know? He's got an incredible knack of doing that. But at some point, surely, his luck has got to run out. How many times can he get away with doing that? Getting hurt and then somebody rushes in to get him and he chins him. Telstar says Dubois looks nervous. Did they just show him on screen? Let me switch up the visuals here. And for those watching this fight, or watching this live stream, excuse me, back on replay, I've got round graphics up for this one. So you can see here, when round one's on, you'll see this on screen. Round two, round three, and so on. If people want to scroll through after the fact and find my commentary for particular rounds. User says, fight's going to be crazy. I see both of them getting dropped. Yeah, even if Fabio Wardley wins, I'll be very surprised if he comes out unscathed. I expect him to get hurt. Win or lose. The only person I could see winning without getting hurt will be Dubois. If he sticks behind his jab and just freezes Fabio Wardley out in a boxing display, that I could see him maybe getting through the fight without getting hurt. But I don't see any scenario where Wardley wins without at least getting buzzed at some point, even if it's a short fight. What's going on in this Esimman fight? Let me take a look. I can hear the commentary, but I'm not really watching. Yeah, Esimman looks worse for wear here. Backpedaling at a rate of knots. Rafity coming forward and just, it looks like landed at will. Esimman all busted up. Blood pouring out of his face. Rafity looks fresh as a daisy. The cornrows ain't even messed up or anything. Shout out to Crip Talk. He says, happy to have your commentary, Hatman. I really cannot stand Adam Smith and his shouting. Well, you might hear some shouting from me, to be fair, if we get some dramatic moments in this fight. So get ready to cover your ears. Okay, it's over. Main event time. Yeah, they pulled Esimman out. That attritional style just doesn't have any longevity to it. You want to go places in boxing, you have to learn how to win fights without getting hit all the time, without relying on your heart. Obviously, it's easier said than done. And I guess Esimman's one of those guys where it's just not possible to win the majority of his fights without getting hit a lot, you know? Every fighter has their limitations. Just looking at some slow-mo here from the fight. Yeah. Esimman worse for wear. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. How you guys doing? Where's everybody from, by the way? How many of you guys are from the UK or other parts of the world? Let's get a show of hands. Where you guys all listening from? I'm guessing mostly from the UK. I saw a couple of Americans in there earlier on. Fernie G is from New York City. Okay, everybody UK so far. Bulgaria, okay. Jake Isaac over there in Bulgaria. Newcastle, Glasgow. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Big up Hyper Spaz. All right. So Timur is from Azerbaijan. Hey, big up the Azerbaijan crew. And by the way, there's a YouTuber that I've been watching from Azerbaijan. Davoud, I'm not sure how to pronounce his surname, but he's a big, like, travel YouTuber. I quite like his videos. Like a guy with a beard that goes around the world, you know, doing the travel vlogging stuff. Wild Fit Boxing listening from Houston. Okay. Okay, Simon Kirk says Basildon. Whenever somebody says Basildon, it always reminds me of that video from the early 2000s of, what are the guys called? Beefy and Taz, that were in some jungle rave. Out of their mind on E. And they did some MCing off the cuff. Any of you guys remember that video? Taz and Beefy. And somebody did a remix, like a drum and bass remix of their crazy off the cuff freestyle. Beefy, you know that one? Okay, Rough listening from Finland. Big up the Finnish crew. Mike listening from the beachfront property near Birmingham. There you go. Shout out to FIFA Junior. He says, I've got Triple D to win by KO in round 2, 25-1. Basildon Boys got some lyrics. I'll never forget that track or that video, excuse me. Joshua Hooker says, I went to Albuquerque. It's the most beautiful crap hole I've ever been to. Tony S in the chat. Big up Tony S. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying all along that everything in my boxing brain tells me that Daniel Dubois should win this fight. He's got a better jab than Wardley. I think he's got better all-round skills. I think he's a bigger puncher. I suspect he's physically stronger, but we'll see. He's more experienced. He's been boxing since he was a kid. Everything tells me he should win. But I thought that about various other Fabio Wardley fights, particularly the Parker fight. And somehow Wardley has proven me wrong time and time again. So I'm kind of afraid to pick against him, even though my boxing brain is telling me to in this fight. Now, FIFA says, how bad was Bakire Jellov? I mean, it's not that he was really bad as far as, you know, he didn't get hit a lot. He didn't come close to losing. He was winning the fight comfortably. He just didn't shine, you know? He just looked very pedestrian, very one-paced. And you'd expect more from a guy with such a terrific amateur background. And it's not like in the amateurs he was just jab, jab, grabbing. He was knocking people out. FIFA says, what round does Fabio's nose get cut? Big up FIFA for the super chat. I'm going to say round 1. Big up Paradox. He says, watching from a Premier Inn. Hailing Island. It's my birthday tomorrow, so chilling with the family. Mymar says, but Triple D's heart is lacking. Yeah, it is. But in order to get to Triple D's heart, you got to get through his power. You got to know how to either negotiate the power, get around it, neutralize it, or take it. Paolo the Geek says, people call AJ shot and washed up, but it took some serious balls from Dubois to go after AJ from the very off the way he did. And he was in those fights with Usyk both times. He's definitely world class. FIFA Junior says, Jellov maybe fought like that on purpose. He seems late to labor sometimes. Alexander says, do you think Simon Jordan calling them squatters was disrespectful? No, I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was quite funny. Referring to AJ and Tyson Fury. Because AJ was talking about being the landlord and this, that, and the other, and I run the game. Being a landlord, he's a squatter at this point. I thought he was quite funny. And I thought the Simon Jordan Cauldron segment after the weigh-in was actually quite entertaining. Other people didn't like it and found it cringe. I thought it was pretty good. I liked the questions Simon Jordan asked. The only critique I would have is that it was a little bit long-winded. They could have cut it down a little bit. But it was a nice, refreshing switch up from the normal, boring, routine, very predictable questions that they ask at weigh-ins and press conferences, you know? Simon Jordan's, you know, even though I've disagreed with a lot of stuff that Simon Jordan said over the years, he's got more about him than the typical boxing interviewer. That's for sure. All right, Luca says, Danny D is coming to storm the beach. Big up, Luca. We'll see. Mike says, what were those glasses Simon was wearing? Looked like fancy dress. Yeah, AJ's pretty much Usyk's houseboy now, ain't it? He was evicted, now he works as Usyk's houseboy. Big up David Gold, he says, I agree. I liked it too. British people just love to complain. Dominica says, is the cauldron a regular thing? I hope it is. Tommy says, Dubois was late to the arena. Another pre-fight party? Was Simon Jordan invited? Yeah, I completely agree, FIFA Junior. Triple D needs to spam the jab button. Again, I'm still quite baffled. And I'm not complaining. I'm just genuinely baffled as to why Fabio Wardley chose to take this fight as his first defense. It's not like it's a mandatory. He chose to take it. He could have picked anybody from the top 10. He picked Daniel Dubois. Yeah, exactly that, Mymore. He says, what made it good was that Simon was stirring the pot with reckless abandon. The kid in me loved it. I almost started chanting, fight, fight, fight. That's exactly what he was there to do. He was there to stir the pot. Yeah, I'm sure Triple D is his highest paying fight. Hey, big up Charles B in the chat. I'm sure Triple D is Wardley's highest paying fight. But he could have fought a couple of easier guys before taking on somebody like a Daniel Dubois, and a big payday might have been even bigger. That's what champions, particularly ones with a limited amateur background, tend to do. Why Fabio Wardley didn't do that, I'm not quite sure. Chris Santos says, give him credit, he wants to be a star. Again, I don't think wanting to be a star would be the main motivation. Because again, you could have a couple of defenses against other guys in the top 10 to build your popularity up, and then you go for a Dubois. I'm not complaining, by the way, by what Wardley's doing. I commend him for it. It's just unusual, you know, for a guy with his kind of background. If it's a guy like Usyk, who has all the credentials and what have you, and he did this for his first defense, you'd say, okay, well, you know, the guy had 300 amateur fights and he was undisputed at cruiserweight and, you know, so on and so forth. But a guy like Wardley, no amateur bouts. And see, Usyk's a guy who can get through a lot of the elite guys without taking a lot of punishment. He doesn't go life and death every time he steps in there with an elite guy, does he? Wardley's gone life and death in several fights. He went life and death with Fraser Clark, for God's sake. He went life and death with Justice Hooney. He went life and death, actually, even though it was a relatively short fight, with Nathan Gorman. This guy's been life and death so many times. It's surprising that once he becomes a world, he went life and death with Parker, obviously. Surprising once he becomes a world champion, he's like, no, I want to keep going life and death. No respite. Let's go life and death again. Yeah, he was hurt by Molina. And that was the first time that we saw this ability that Fabio Wardley has to be super dangerous when he's hurt. Because Molina hurt him and he went in for the finish. And right when you thought Wardley was about to get quote unquote exposed, Molina's on the floor. Yo, Wardley, he's got that crazy knack. I remember that fight he had with, what's the guy that was managed? Was it managed and trained or just managed by Scott Welch? I forget his name now. Big guy from the South Coast with a sideshow bob haircut. And that was a little bit of a wild fight. It was only a 1-round fight, but it was a little bit wild. And Fabio Wardley put him away. Yeah, Nick Webb. Thank you, FIFA Junior. Nick Webb. Fabio Wardley put him away early doors. And Wardley always looks like he's in a rage. You know, when he knocks people out? It's like when he knocked out Nathan Gorman, he was literally in a rage. He flew into a rage and started tearing into Gorman. Was that the first time that Wardley's nose got busted? KO Kid Boxing says, yeah, Nick Webb, he's a local to my area, funny enough. Indeed, Mike. Yeah, just see red, bro. That's what happens when Wardy just sees red. That's a good question. Why does Wardley's nose never heal? Omar says he taps into the roadman energy. Wardley is such an unusual character, isn't he? Because if you look at his face, he looks rough. You know what I mean? He doesn't have like a pretty boy aesthetic. He looks like a rough guy. Got the scar on his nose and whatnot. It looks like a bruiser. But when he opens his mouth, it's almost like a middle-class accent, and he comes across as very polite and all this type of stuff. It catches you off guard. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, is that how he talks? Comes across like a consummate gentleman. But when the fists start flying, it's pure roadman energy. Yeah. Yeah, the accent definitely throws you off. He used to be a recruitment consultant or a recruitment agent, wherever it was, and he still talks like that. All right, they're interviewing Bricktop right now. Let's just get the ring walks on. Flipping hell, man. Let's get the ring walks on. It's a very late one. Normally the cards are finishing by this time. What is it, coming up to 11 p.m. in the UK? Normally the main event should be over at this point, or close to being over. Hasn't even started yet here. That's right, Black Dynamite. Daniel Dubois looks like a Goomba from Super Mario Brothers. The live-action movie, 1993. If anyone don't know what I'm talking about. There you go. Daniel Dubois on screen right here. His movie debut. You have 100% resemblance. Goozy says, is that a selfie? Someone says Dubois mugshot. What's my take on Michael Offo? I think he's hilarious. The way he stuck it on Sam Jones. And he's been funny at press conferences for quite a while now. I like him. Don't get it twisted. I can understand why some people don't like him. He's one of those kind of Marmite characters, but I like the way he comes in and ruffles feathers and upsets the other team. I like all that. And he does it in a deadpan way. He's not trying to be a tough guy or anything like that. He just does it in a very managerial, deadpan fashion. I find it funny. Yep, WWF style managers. That's right. Or you got a Tama ringside. What's he saying? The Tama 14-0, 12 KOs. It'll be interesting to see who they match him up against in August. They've apparently moved his fight date back. He was going to fight in July. It's now looking like August because of AJ's run out against the Albanian. They don't want to clash with that, so they're pushing it back to early August for Itama. McNoctus says, yeah, Dubois is easy money for Itama. Charles B says, Dubois has that fluoride stare in that picture. In every picture. One sec, folks. All right, was just adjusting my seat in there. Does anyone have an explanation as to why this card has been so drawn out? What is this all about? Even now they're procrastinating and mucking about. Just get the fighters to the ring, man. What's with this late start? Okay, a couple of guys saying Queensbury cards are always late. Scheduled for 11 p.m., but why though? What's that all about? I thought we were making a move to, you know, more reasonable times for these cards. Certainly Eddie Hearn was talking about that for years. Jupiter String says pre-match juju. Is Dubois' dad Baron Samedi working his magic behind the scenes? David Gold says Dubois looks off. Let me see what you guys are looking at here. Gotta watch my screen because every time somebody says Dubois looks off or looks nervous, I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing because I'm looking at the live chat, not looking at the actual live feed or the stream itself. Okay, are they going to call the fighters to the ring now? Thomas Schreiber. Okay, I think we're, yeah. Thomas Triber gonna call the fighters in. Hopefully we get some relatively short ring walks, no unnecessary pyrotechnics and 5 minutes of standing around by a big screen while they play some track that we don't really care about. Especially when the main event is this late. Let's just get to the ring, boys. No long thing. So Dubois coming to the ring first as the challenger. Are you ready? Yes, we're ready. Please. We don't need a concert to break out before this ring walk. Big up Connor Williams. I think my stream might be behind some of you guys, so let me refresh it. Because you guys are saying stuff which I'm not yet seeing on my screen. Let me try to refresh it here. So Dubois on the way to the ring now. Now that's not Dubois Jr., that's his little brother, who also boxes. How does Dubois look? He looks a little thoughtful. I'd say he looks a little thoughtful coming to the ring. He's worked up a good sweat there, it looks like, behind closed doors in the locker room beforehand. Stumbled on the step on the way up to the ring. To me, he doesn't look super nervous or anything like that. He looks a little thoughtful. Okay, somebody says, Howard Foster's the ref? Yeah, it's never a great look, is it, when Howard Foster's reffing? Okay, Wardley. Is he coming to the ring to Pharaoh Munch? Or is it just that little snippet of the intro from the old Godzilla music? Okay, it's the Roy Jones Can't Be Touched track. Does he normally come out to that? Michael Offal holding up the WBO World Championship belt. Wardley enjoying the moment. Pacing up and down. Feeling like the man. Will this be the day that Fabio Wardley's luck finally runs out? Daniel Dubois referred to him as lucky, you know, constantly getting out of jail with that power and that heart. And the thing about Wardley, right, people have, in some cases, called him the new Deontay Wilder. He's not really the new Deontay Wilder. He doesn't have that kind of power. He is a good puncher, obviously, but it's not Wilder type power. Wardley relies a lot more than Wilder did on heart and tenacity. Because, you know, in most of Wilder's wins, he wasn't really taking a lot of punishment. It's only really the first Ortiz fight where he was taking a lot of punishment, then came out with a knockout victory. But in most of his wins, he wasn't really taking a lot of punishment. He might have been getting outboxed, but not getting beaten up. You know, wasn't shipping a lot of damage, whereas Wardley shipped a lot of damage in his fights. Fabio Wardley is what I call a natural fighter. And I'm not talking about his physical ability as much as his mental ability, you know, his personality type. He's just a natural fighter. Some guys are like that, you know. He's got a natural fighter's instinct, a natural fighting spirit. Some people say that's something you can't teach. You can't necessarily teach it, but you can develop it, you know, as in yourself. You can develop your own spirit by testing yourself and putting yourself in uncomfortable positions and just remaining disciplined and pushing yourself through. That doesn't mean you'll end up with the extremely strong fighting spirit of a Fabio Wardley, but you can become more spirited than where you first started out. Let's just put it that way. By pushing yourself through difficult situations and just staying disciplined and saying, no matter what happens, even if I get chinned, even if I get dropped, whatever happens, I'm just going to keep swinging. Figuratively speaking, as well as literally. So, Thomas Tribon with the official particulars. Yep, Howard Foster in the corner. Oh dear, let's hope there's no controversy here, folks. Let's hope they don't try and rinse us for a rematch, 2 fights. Big up Harold Protagonist. He's going for Triple D by KO. That's right, Charles B. Wardley would make a good medieval knight. Big up LCFC Ally. He says, do you think Dubois has the discipline to stick to a game plan better than Parker did? Love the channel. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. I think it really depends on what Wardley's able to do. I think if Dubois comes out and he establishes his jab and he's got things under control, then it's going to be up to Wardley to try and break the pattern, to do something to knock Dubois out of his rhythm. If he doesn't, then I could see Dubois outboxing him and maybe stopping him late or winning on points. I could see it. But as I said pre-fight, I could see anything happening here. It's so unpredictable to me. On paper, Dubois looks like he should win. You know, my boxing brain tells me he should win. But fights are not won on paper, they're won in the ring. McNocta says Dubois looks chunky. Well, he weighed in at 252. That's a career heaviest for him. And shout out to LCFC, by the way, for the super chat. Much appreciated, sir. I'm glad you enjoy the content. So Dubois is about 10 pounds heavier for this fight than he was for the Usyk rematch. That's quite a lot of weight. But he's been in the high 240s before. I think he was around 248 for Joshua. So he's only about 4 pounds heavier here than he was against AJ. So it's not a massive amount of weight for a 6'5" heavyweight, you know? I think rather than seeing Dubois as being particularly heavy here, it might be more accurate to see him as coming in light for the Usyk rematch. That's probably a more accurate way to look at it. He's moving into his late 20s, early 30s now, so, you know, guy of that size is going to put on a bit of bulk naturally. Yeah, Dubois looks very intense today, face-off, as he has done for the whole of fight week. He's in fight mode. Let's see what happens here, folks. Ben Davison just giving Fabio Wardley some reminders before the opening bell. Will it be over in a round? Let's see. Light the touch paper, stand back. We're about to see a heavyweight explosion, he says. Here we go, round number 1. Oh, massive right hand from Wardley. Dubois down already. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I mean, bombs away. What? Dubois already down. This is crazy. Now, Wardley don't need to be getting caught with anything crazy coming in now, going for the finish. He put Dubois down inside the first 30 seconds. Oh, massive right hand from Dubois. Maybe it will be a Hagler Hearns of the heavyweights. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. What a fantastic start so far for Fabio Wardley. Man had Dubois down in the first 30 seconds. Wardley fainting. Yo, that's crazy. Ooh, Wardley really going for it with the right hand. Loading up. Dubois a little pensive, a little circumspect here as you, whoa. Wardley, DDT Daniel Dubois just. Yo, that was some WWE wrestling business there, DDT. Crazy. I did not expect that. I mean, I thought anything could happen in this fight, but I didn't expect Dubois to go down in the first 30 seconds. Again, Wardley really loading up with a right hand. I think he needs to stop doing that. He's getting a bit excited by the fact that he had Dubois down so early. Ooh, there's the right hand again from Wardley. It's a fast shot. So Wardley's right hand certainly is a lot faster than Dubois' right hand at this stage. Wardley getting his jab off. Dubois coming in, trying to attack Wardley, pushing him back to the ropes. A minute left. I'm a little shell-shocked, folks. I didn't expect Dubois to go down so early. Dubois actually came in and tried to hold there. Is he breaking down psychologically already? He's getting his jab off, Dubois, to Wardley's chest. Don Charles is going to need to settle him down in the corner because, you know, this is probably going to be a shock to Dubois himself. Again, Wardley really loading up with that right hand. He's putting everything behind it. Again, I think Wardley needs to just settle down himself a little bit. Yeah, he's excited. He's probably thinking, the longer Dubois is in there, the more dangerous he's going to be. So I need to end this fight quick. It's kind of like when George Foreman fought Joe Frazier. That was his mentality. He said, I need to knock him out as soon as possible. The longer the fight goes, the more danger there is. That's the clapper. And again, huge right hands from Wardley. I've never seen him load up so early on to this extent with a right hand. A 10-8 round for Fabio Wardley there. Wardley breathing heavy after the end of that first round with all those massive right hands he was chucking. Wow. What do you guys think of that round? Yes, Encircle, Dubois does look calm, and I think Wardley needs to calm himself down. Because if Wardley keeps throwing those right hands and missing like that, it's not going to be long before he tires out and Dubois gets himself back into the fight. Let me see the replay. Here we go. It was a right hand kind of high on the head, and Dubois has always been more susceptible, by the way, to shots that land high on the head. That's how he was dropped by Kevin Lorena. It wasn't a shot on the chin. It was shots high on Dubois' head that seemed to hurt him. Even when he fought Richard Lartey, here's round 2. Even when he fought Richard Lartey, he got hurt against Richard Lartey with a shot high on the head. Okay, Dubois on the front foot, sticking his jab out, really going for it, pinning Fabio Wardley up against the ropes. Wardley cool. Managed to evade what Dubois was doing there. Throws his big right hand out himself. Dubois not deterred as of yet. As I've said many times before, Dubois tends to break down psychologically when he can't land his own shots. Being in a firefight doesn't particularly bother him. It's when he can't land his own shots, but he keeps getting hit by the other guy's shots, even if they're not particularly hard shots. That's when he tends to break down. Wardley really falling well short with his right hand here. He's feinting at Daniel Dubois and going for the knockout shot. But very, very taxing when he loads up like that. That's a great jab from Daniel Dubois. Again, Wardley loading up too much for me with that right hand. I mean, yeah, it's going to be great if it lands, but if it don't land, he's going to deplete his gas tank. Dubois looks the calmer fighter to me, even though he's been on the floor. Again, Wardley feinting. Wardley said, again, because Wardley's got that fighter's instinct, where it's, you know, your face or mine, he wants to get down to the nitty-gritty and just get the fight over with. Ooh, that's a good right-hand counter from Daniel Dubois there. Another right-hand counter from Dubois. Wardley might have been a little buzzed by that shot. Dubois comes in and smothers his own work. Referee Howard Foster breaks them up a minute to go in round number 2. This is Dubois' round for me. Number 2, he's come back fairly well with steady boxing. Nothing silly. But he takes a nice jab there from Wardley. Nice shots from Dubois. Big right hand from Dubois pushes Wardley back into the ropes. Is that a little bit of swelling over Dubois' eye? Or is it just the lighting? Yeah, Dubois' boxing skills coming into play in this second round. He's just trying to box off that jab, keep it all simple. And again, Wardley really loading up with a right hand. Wardley breathing quite heavy at the back end of this round number 2. 10 seconds left in the second. That's the clapper. It's turned into a little bit of a battle of the jabs in this final few seconds of the second. There's the bell. Interesting. Again, Wardley needs to settle down. Wardley's got some damage there to his lip. Needs to settle down. Got too excited with the success he had in round number 1, scoring that knockdown. And he looks to be breathing a lot heavier than Daniel Dubois. And Dubois got a good engine. At least he has shown a good engine earlier on in his career. Certainly against Hrgovic, Jarrell Miller. It's never been his engine that's been in question for me, Daniel Dubois. It's been his heart. Just looking at some slow-mo here. That's a nice jab from Dubois. Wardley showing that upper body movement. And then caught a right hand there from Dubois, but he was turning away from the shot. Wardley rolled that punch pretty well there. Here we go, round number 3. Fabio Wardley's first defense of his WBO heavyweight title against Daniel Dubois. Dubois was down in the first 30 seconds of the fight, but he's come back and he's established his jab. And for me, he outboxed Fabio Wardley in the second round. Here we are in round 3. Wardley's been loading up with a right hand far too much, which is going to sap his own energy. And also, it becomes predictable. Dubois can read when Wardley's going to load up with a shot. And he can start countering. Wardley trying to use feints. That's a right hand from Dubois there. Big right hand from Dubois. Wardley up against the ropes. Dubois with a short left hook on the inside. Wardley trying to wrap him up. Referee breaks them. A little over 2 minutes left in round number 3. Dubois starting to get on top now. Ooh, short shot on the inside from Dubois there, right on the break. Ooh, big right hand for Wardley. Dubois down again. Dubois takes a knee. Oh my days, Fabio Wardley leads over him. Dubois on the knee again. Howard Foster counting over him. Is Wardley going to go for the finish? Will he get caught going for the finish? like Anthony Joshua did. Dubois comes in to try and hold. Very unusual to see Dubois so keen to hold like that. Ooh, massive hand from Wardley. Air conditions the front row there, missed by a mile. Dubois gets back on his jab, tries to land the right hand. So it's been Wardley's power that has been telling so far in this fight. He's had Dubois down twice with that big right hand. He's basically just trying to outman Dubois in there. I mean, fair play to Fabio Wardley. Again, air condition in the front row with these haymakers. Fabio Wardley. Oh, big right hand from Dubois. Pushes Wardley back. Was he buzzed? Wardley going for a little walkabout there. Nice jab there from Daniel Dubois. Yo, Fabio Wardley is something else. 30 seconds left. Little under 30 seconds left in round number 3. Another 10-8 round. Big right hand from Wardley. Another 10-8 round for Fabio Wardley. He's feinting. He's looking for the big right hand. Oof. Dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. I've never seen Wardley throw his right hand like this before. It's as if Ben Davison has really been tweaking that right hand to try and get maximum power on it, because it was similar to what... Oh, big jab there from Dubois at the end of the round. It's as if... That's the end of round number 3. It's as if Ben Davison's been tweaking Wardley's right hand to get maximum power on it, because we did see that from AJ in the fights that he had with Ben Davison. He's throwing it like a flipping javelin. Yeah, Dubois getting a talking to in the corner by Don Charles. This is a wild fight, guys. And there's the second knockdown, looking at the replay again. Again, high on, that was actually on the temple. And Dubois voluntarily took a knee. He wasn't knocked to the canvas, he voluntarily took a knee. Great shot right on the temple. Down goes Triple D, or Triple Knee as some people like to call him. He's in a tough fight here again. Here we go, round number 4. So Fabio Wardley, despite being outboxed there in round 2 and 3, he manages to land that big right hand and turn it into a 10-8 round. Oh, there it is again. It's not the most sophisticated shot, but Daniel Dubois has never been defensively blessed. Okay, some rough stuff on the inside from the heads of both guys. Yeah, there is a swelling over Daniel Dubois' left eye there. I'm guessing that's from Fabio Wardley's jab, because the right hands appear to be landed on the side of his head. Oh, big right hand from Dubois. Wardley wobbled. Another massive right hand from Dubois. Pushes Wardley into the corner. If Wardley was wobbled, as I said there, it was momentary. Ooh, when he comes back with another huge right hand. Dubois looking to hold. I've never seen a fight where Dubois tries to hold as much as we're seeing here. You know, one of the reasons that people love Fabio Wardley is because it does exactly what it says on the tin. He said he was going to come out from the opening bell and make this a war, and that's exactly what he's done. He's not pump faking, he's not messing about, it's not hype talk. When Fabio Wardley said he was going to come out against the biggest puncher he's faced so far as a pro and just turn it into a war from the opening bell, yeah, he meant it. Oh, massive right hand from Dubois. Wardley eats it though. But how many of those can he eat before he starts to show more noticeable signs of being hurt? Because that was a nice shot from Dubois there. Oh, big shots from Dubois. Pushes Wardley. Another right hand from Dubois. Okay, Wardley showing some distress there. As if he got something in his eye. That's Wardley's right eye. As if he got something in the right eye. Big right hand, big shots there from Daniel Dubois. Pushes Wardley up against the ropes. Another right hand up from Dubois up close. This is a good round for Daniel Dubois. Wardley definitely distressed with that right eye. It's like he's got something in the eye. It's as if Daniel Dubois tried to lace him and, rub His glove in his eye maybe got a bit of dust in there or something. Much better round for Dubois. He's come back well following those knockdowns. It's an interesting pattern that this fight is falling into because Dubois clearly is the better boxer of the two. But it appears that Wardley's got the better chin. And he's certainly got the faster hands. He's the faster guy with a better chin. And he rides the shots better as well, to be fair, Wardley. Wardley, when he does get hit, he's not getting hit really flush because he's kind of pulling his head out of the way. That's the end of round number 4 in a fascinating fight. Yeah, big up Connor Williams, he says, as you said, Dubois is still able to land his own shot, so he's not showing any quit so far. Yeah, that's the key with Dubois. That's the key. If he can still land his own shots, his heart is still in the fight. It's when he can no longer land his shots, that's when he starts to look for a way out. When he can no longer land his shots, but the other guy is landing theirs. I should say that. But yeah, Wardley is quite good, or has been quite good so far, at riding the punches. He's not really taking them as flush as Dubois taking Wardley's power shots. Here we go, round number 5. There's the bell. Dubois out on the front foot. Wardley looking to catch him coming in. Something in the ring there. Oh! Wardley knocked off balance by, I think, a Dubois jab. This is a fascinating fight because, again, Dubois looks like he's got a bit more gas in the tank. And he's certainly the better boxer here. But it's been Wardley that scored the knockdowns. And they're showing the punch stats here. Dubois has outlanded Wardley. I mean, that fits exactly what I've seen. But Wardley has landed the more telling shots. Wardley to me looks like he's tiring here, guys. And the right hand is becoming more predictable. Will this be another Hrgovic type situation? Where Daniel Dubois comes on strong late in the fight. Ooh, Wardley just fanning the whole arena with those haymakers, right and then a left. Right hand there from Daniel Dubois. Jab from Fabio Wardley has been a rare punch. At least jabs that have landed. Yeah, Wardley has got some damage now on his right eye. Wardley going with the feints, but getting hit by Dubois' jab down the middle. As Wardley tires, is that head movement going to get slower? Oh, big right hand from Daniel Dubois. Was Wardley wobbled there? I think I might have seen Wardley's legs dip there. Big jab again from Daniel Dubois. Followed by the right hand. Wardley kind of moved his head out the way. Wardley's really going to need to rely on that head movement because he looks like he's tired at this point. He's getting completely outboxed, really. Big jab from Dubois. Okay, Wardley's gum shield comes out there. Referee shouldn't have really stopped it there because that wasn't a lull in the action. You're supposed to stop the action. You're supposed to stop a fight to put a gum shield back in when there's a lull. So that was really helpful there to Fabio Wardley. Ooh, Dubois sets about him. Right hand and left hook to the body. Pins Fabio Wardley on the ropes. Wardley hits Dubois back with a right hand to the body of his own. Yeah, Wardley's going to need every bit of his toughness because Dubois looks like he's got plenty left in the tank despite being dropped twice. And he looks very determined. Big jab from Daniel Dubois. 10 seconds left in the round. Dubois digging to the body, has Wardley up against the ropes. Looks like the physically stronger of the two. Wardley with a swelling over his right eye. There's the end of round number 5. Let's have a look at some... Okay, we got Don Charles slapping Daniel Dubois around the face there. Some slow-mos here. Yeah, Wardley got hit with a hell of a Dubois right hand high on his head, and he ate it. Wardley looking a bit busted up now, bleeding from the mouth, swollen eye. So here we go, round number 6. Will this fight go the distance? It's an ebb and flow affair. Here we go, there's the bell. Daniel Dubois is getting on top at this stage, but it looked like he was getting on top as early as the 3rd, and he ended up being dropped again. Big jab from Daniel Dubois. Yep, the boxing skills are really paying off for Dubois at the moment, the last few rounds. The jab's been very nice. The balance has been good. He's been using his feet to make Fabio Wardley fall short with the right hands. And Dubois just needs to be sensible here. You know, not do anything silly. Stick to the basics. Wardley loading up with the right hand massively again and missing. Again, Wardley missing badly with the right hand. Right hand back from Dubois, but smothers his own work. Doesn't really have enough space to get anything serious off. Referee breaks him. 1:40 left in round number 6. Big jab there from Daniel Dubois. The fight has settled down, it seems, now. And that's favoring Dubois. Oh, big right hand from Dubois. Left hook follow-up. But to be fair, Dubois' shots are not as snappy as they were in the early part of the fight either. Both guys, as you would expect, feeling the pace a bit here. Particularly Fabio Wardley. Because I think he's wasted more energy. Loading up on the right hand far too many times. Right hand from Dubois. Left hook from Dubois. Wardley tucks up. Push back against the ropes. Tries to tie Daniel Dubois up. But to me, these are some signs of distress for Wardley here. He looks distressed, guys. Wardley looking bashed up all of a sudden. Big right hand from Dubois. Wardley bloodied, spitting blood on the canvas. Big jab from Daniel Dubois there. Fabio Wardley in trouble. Wardley in serious trouble. Ooh, swinging back with massive shots. Tires Daniel Dubois up. This is looking very bad for Fabio Wardley here. Has his luck finally run out? He's trying to swing back with Daniel Dubois. Big right hand from Wardley. Big right hand from Dubois. Wardley looks out on his feet. Is Wardley about to go down? Wardley looks completely spent. But being the warrior he is, he's fighting to the last. There's the end of round number 6. Yeah, Wardley looks done. Will his corner pull him out? An incredible comeback by Daniel Dubois. What is Ben Davison going to tell him in the corner? Is this a bridge too far for Fabio Wardley? It looks like it at this stage. That's the worst trouble Wardley's ever been in. He looked almost out on his feet. As in completely gone. He still had something about him, but he was a punch or two away from being completely out of it for me. Tremendous uppercut there from Dubois. Here we go, round number 7. I'm sure Dubois is going to jump on him. Wardley going for a Hail Mary right hand to try and keep Dubois off. Big right hand from Dubois. Wardley on rubbery legs. He's surely going to go down. He's surely going to go down. Or is the referee going to stop it? Uppercut back from Wardley. He's bleeding badly from the nose. Right hand back from Wardley misses by a mile, as most of his right hands have. Big left hook from Daniel Dubois. Surely he's close to securing the stoppage here in this 7th round of a wild fight. Wardley's face a mask of blood. Dubois comes in with heavy artillery. Wardley's going to need every bit of that famous heart to get through this. Wardley trying to get back on the feints. But Daniel Dubois' boxing skills have really saved him in this fight. And he's shown plenty of heart too, but it's really been the boxing skills. That's what's busted up Fabio Wardley's face. The nice jab, the balance, the range control. Jab there from Wardley. Actually lands. That's a rarity. Again, Hail Mary right hand from Wardley. Misses by a mile. And every time he misses one of those shots, it takes a lot out of him. A minute 20 left in round number 7. I guess Dubois is a little, not necessarily winded, but, you know, overexerted from the previous round because it's been a slower paced round for him too. Wardley bleeding profusely from that nose bridge there. Big right hand from Daniel Dubois. Wardley wobbled back against the ropes, but stays on his feet incredibly. Wardley's eye also, the right eye, badly messed up. One, two from Daniel Dubois. Wardley fighting with his hands up now. That's when you know he's in trouble, because Wardley doesn't really keep the earmuffs on or up unless he's up against the ropes. He was in the middle of the ring there with his hands up. Unusual posture for Fabio Wardley. Big right hand from Daniel Dubois. Wardley just completely knackered, swinging everything. Oh, catches Dubois with a shot. Wardley with an uppercut and a left. Why is Howard Foster stopping him? Is he going to consult the doctor about Fabio Wardley's cut nose bridge? Is he going to stop the fight on this? No, he's allowing the fight to... What was that all about? Why did Howard Foster stop the fight there? Did he think that he heard the bell? Well, whatever it was, that helped Fabio Wardley out. But that was, you know, that was a bit of a comeback there for, and big up Matt Borgerson for the super chat. That was a bit of a comeback there for Fabio Wardley, just surviving the round. Matt Borgerson said it's a weird fight. Fire Foster. Yeah, I've got no idea what Howard Foster was doing there. Why did he stop the fight to... I thought he was going to take Wardley to the corner for the doctor to look at his nose, but he didn't. Can Wardley get through this? Because he looks completely spent. And Dubois looks the much fresher of the two. Dubois just has to be sensible and not get tagged with anything silly. Here we go, round number 8. What a crazy fight. You know, from a technical perspective, Wardley has done so many things wrong, as he often does, usually does. But the one thing that Wardley's had going for him in this fight, and even against Joseph Parker, is his ability to ride the punches pretty well. He actually rides shots better than Dubois does. Dubois is very stiff. There's a big jab there from Dubois while Fabio Wardley was swinging that knocked him off balance. And that's the amateur pedigree from Dubois. You know, just keep it simple. If you see a guy loading up with some big haymaker, just stick a jab in his chest. He'll miss by a mile. Wardley still with the haymakers. Big right hand from Daniel Dubois. Wardley trapped in the corner. Problem with Wardley's feints is they're not really working. He's feinting and just swinging and missing by a mile. Very, very uncultured punches. See, a lot of the thing with Fabio Wardley is that he relies on his opponent coming at him in order to land the shot, because when the opponent's not coming at him, the right hand's very inaccurate. Halfway through round number 8, Dubois' pace has slowed down quite a lot here as well. So, Dubois kind of tiring himself out, beating Fabio Wardley up. Yeah, Wardley's face is a mess. Again, Wardley just puts everything into the right hand. That's a big right hand out around the back of the head there from Daniel Dubois. I don't think it was intentional. Big jab there from Dubois. 50 seconds left in round number 8. Both guys feeling the pace. Dubois must be thinking, what in the hell is keeping this guy up? Look at the mess I've made of his face and he's still there. What is this guy made of? 30 seconds left in the 8th. Oh, big jab knocks Fabio Wardley off balance. Dubois tries to follow up. Left hook. Terrible bleeding from Fabio Wardley's nose bridge. Uppercut left from Dubois misses. Right hand from Dubois kind of skims past Wardley's face. Yeah, Wardley, if he's learned one skill, it's to ride punches. That's the end of the 8th anyway. If he's learned one good skill, it's riding those shots. He's taken some of them flush, don't get it twisted, but he's riding a lot of them. Big up Matt Bogus, he says, this is the most heart I've ever seen. Busy Clergy says, Dubois should go to the body. I agree. Yeah, he's really missed the trick there, not going to the body enough. But obviously, going to the body, he may leave himself open to Fabio Wardley's right hand, but yeah, I would agree. At least with a jab, go to the body. And certainly on the inside. Looking at some slow-mo here. Big right hand from Dubois, catches Wardley on the eye. That was a hurtful shot. Big jab. Here we go, round number 9. Okay, Howard Foster is taking Fabio Wardley to the corner now for the referee to inspect his injuries. Is the ref going to stop it? Or will he let it continue? The nose is busted, the eye is swollen. Will the ref let it continue? The way the referee's pushing on his nose is not going to make it any better. All right, they're allowing it to continue. Daniel Dubois sticking it on him immediately. Wardley firing back with that big right hand. That's his weapon of choice. Dubois trying to stick the jab on him again. Wardley falling short with a right once again. Came closer there. Nice jab there from Wardley. Another nice jab from Wardley. Really trying to trade up with a right hand. That's a big right hand from Daniel Dubois. Wardley stumbles. Nice jab there from Wardley. Tries to catch Dubois with the uppercut coming in. Wardley is just all warrior. I mean, he's very little boxer about him. He's all warrior. Mr. Never Say Die. Wardley fainting, but he's so tired. He's got no life in his legs. Slumps back to the ropes. But he's got such heart. Dubois has to respect it, you know? Even though he's got a man in front of him that looks finished, he's just so dangerous when he's finished. He is like the quintessential wounded animal. Nice jabs here from Wardley. Is there going to be another twist in the plot? Because for me, Dubois is well on top. Despite the 2 knockdowns, he's surely well ahead on the scorecards. The crowd screaming, oh, Fabio Wardley, as they would. Right and left hand from Dubois. Wardley looking for the money punch. That's a shot round the side that nearly caught Dubois, was partially blocked. Just over a minute left in round number 9. This is the best spell that Wardley's had for a while. Not that he's necessarily winning the round, but again, a bit of success here, which has been rare for the past few rounds for him. Oh, big right hand from Wardley. Is Dubois hurt again? Dubois backing off. Big right hand from Dubois as Wardley comes in. Dubois, this is wild. Is Wardley going to go down? Dubois got him up against the ropes. Massive shots from Dubois. Wardley needs to fire back or the referee's going to stop it. Wardley does fire back. Big right hand to the body from Wardley. I mean, this guy leaves absolutely nothing in the ring. Massive right hand from Dubois. Wardley on the ropes. He's surely going to get stopped. Referee Howard Foster taking a very close look at Fabio Wardley, the man from Ipswich. Very, very close look. Wardley needs to show the referee something. Massive right hand from Wardley. How is he still on his feet? This is crazy. Nah, the heart of Wardley is ridiculous. Howard Foster taking a very, very close look at Fabio Wardley there. Will the fight be stopped between round 9 and 10 here? Because, I mean, Wardley's got like the ultimate heart in the heavyweight division. This is crazy. Wardley's heart is crazy. This man literally leaves nothing in the ring, bro. He lets it all hang out. It's literally knock you out or get knocked out trying. And it was a tremendous uppercut from Wardley that buzzed Daniel Dubois there. Yo, Wardley got hit with some bombs. You know, whatever happens here, this is going to take years off Wardley's career. Tremendous right hand that he took coming in. And he walked into that punch as well and kissed the top of Daniel Dubois' head for good measure. Okay, he is coming out for round number 10. Unbelievable. Wardley breathing heavy, looking all sorts of busted up. Howard Foster taking a very close look. Okay, time out here. Wardley's stumbling around on his feet. Wardley's stumbling around. They're taking him to the corner again. Wardley doesn't want the doctor, to inspect his injuries. Is the doctor going to allow it to continue or not? And all of this, by the way, is helping Fabio Wardley if they allow it to carry on. It's giving him extra time to recover. They are allowing it to carry on. Here we go. The continuation of round number 10. Wardley not showing us anything we didn't already know about him, but, you know, he's showing it to the extreme in this instance. Ridiculous heart. Yeah, all the snap has gone out of Wardley's punches. His legs are completely leaden at this stage. No bounce in his legs or anything. And yes, that's partly because of the shots he's been hit with by Dubois, but it's also because of all the shots that Wardley's missed with. His accuracy has been terrible. That's the lack of amateur experience. Oh, big right hand from Daniel Dubois. Yeah, Foster's surely going to stop this fight at some stage. Where was this version of Howard Foster in the first Frutch Groves fight? Big right hand from Wardley there. Oh, jab from Wardley. He doesn't go flying in because he senses that Dubois still got some spring in his legs and he wasn't that badly hurt, but a little bit of success there for Wardley. Again, massive right hand from Wardley. Dubois counters with an uppercut. Right hand from Wardley. They clinch against the ropes. Wardley is a crazy MFer. He is a crazy guy. Again, Wardley going with a massive right hand. Jab from Wardley. Like, surely Dubois, I know he's not Again, Wardley missing with a massive right hand. Dubois is not the most magnanimous guy. But surely he has to respect Fabio Wardley after this fight. Because, yo, he's got to respect him after this fight. So Dubois senses that Wardley's still somewhat dangerous. So don't take any unnecessary risks. Stick it. Stick that jab on him. Right hand from Dubois. Left hook. Big right hand from Dubois. Wardley wobbles to his corner. Will his corner pull him out? Yeah, they're really working on Wardley's face in that corner. I mean, I guess it's the fact that Wardley has pulled out of the fire so many times. They want to see if he can do it again. Massive right hand there from Dubois crashing into Wardley's face. But there's the right hand from Wardley, which didn't really have much behind it, to be fair. Kind of skimmed off Dubois' chin. I guess, yeah, round 11 coming up here. They're hoping Wardley can land a haymaker, or maybe they're just going for the moral victory of lasting the distance rather than getting stopped. But is it worth it? Big right hand from Daniel Dubois at the start of round number 11. Wardley pushed up in the corner, trying to get that head movement going. Jab there from Wardley. Big right hand from Dubois. Yeah, referee Howard Foster stops the fight. It's a good stoppage. Wardley was getting a terrible pace sting. Yes, he's the bravest guy in the heavyweight division, but that's exactly why they had to stop it. Because he is the he is the epitome, Fabio Wardley, of do or die. And now, and by the way, I do want to push back a bit on some of these people who turned up in the comment section of my pre-fight video where I sat on the fence and couldn't pick a winner. And they were saying, oh my God, Hatman, how could you not pick a winner? Well, because I genuinely don't know who's going to win. That's how. I'm not just going to randomly guess and then take credit for it afterwards if I got the prediction correct. And there were some people in the comments saying, it's an easy win for Dubois. Why is this hard for anyone to predict? Really? Are you saying that was an easy win for Daniel Dubois? Yeah, Abdi, man, Abdi needs to pipe down. What? Someone says Michael Ofo swinging. Was he? Was he swinging at Abdi? But incredibly, right, despite stopping Fabio Wardley in the 11th, Wardley never touched the canvas. Isn't that crazy? As tired as he was after all the big shots he took, man never touched the canvas. And Wardley is the kind of guy that will fight to the bitter end. He will literally fight until he's unconscious. There's absolutely not even 1 ounce, not even 1 gram, not 1 milligram of quit in Fabio Wardley. Crazy. Okay, Dubois won the fight. This might sound like I'm not giving Dubois enough credit, but on paper, he was supposed to win this fight. You know, the reason that people like me were so unsure about who was going to get their hand raised was not because we saw the skills between the two guys as being so even. It's because Wardley has got this ridiculous fighting spirit and heart. And Dubois, despite having the superior skills and experience, has been found wanting a few times in the heart department. But as I've said so many times, in order for Daniel Dubois to be pushed to the point of quitting, you have to put him in a position where he's not landing his own shots. He can take shots, Daniel Dubois. He can be in a firefight where he's taking punishment, and he'll keep fighting. He quits when he can no longer land his own punches and the other guy's hitting him consistently. That's when he goes into mental meltdown. There's a hug there at the end of the fight from between Dubois and Wardley. What a crazy scrap that was. It lived up to the hype, as most of us expected it would do, right? What a crazy fight. Daniel Dubois, two-time heavyweight champion. And the new. Again, big hug between Wardley and Dubois. Got to be massive respect there. Like Adam Smith. And there's the respect. Let's see what Daniel Dubois has to say in the post-fight interview, if anything. Is he going to walk out the ring? You know, he's a unusual kind of character. It looks like he wants to walk out the ring, but they're trying to talk to him to stay in the ring and be interviewed. Let's get him interviewed quick. It's already late. We don't want to see Usyk Dubois 3. So that's one of the downsides of Dubois getting the win here. All right, Addy interviewing him here. Let's have a listen to what he says. He's thanking Fabio for the war. And we really have to hope that Fabio Wardley's okay after that beating. Because that was a long, drawn-out beating, and, you know, you do worry in situations like that for a guy's health. I think Fabio Wardley's leaving the ring here. And that's the right thing to do, folks, because, again, when you've taken that kind of protracted beating, you need to get him to the hospital as quickly as possible. Yeah, plenty of respect there from Dubois for Wardley. Wardley getting out the ring. I hope they monitor him very, very closely. Very, very closely. He still seems unsteady on his feet even now. Big up GMS Nightmare. He says, Utama destroys Dubois. Big up Copezilla. He says, that's a career-ending beatdown. We hope there's no serious damage there, Copezilla. Big up Grizzly says, fight of the year so far? Yes. A big up Ella LCFC Ally. He says, or Ali. He says, I knew this fight would be epic. I remember your vid about Mayweather Pacquiao. This fight had all the ingredients, whereas that fight didn't. I've learned so much from you. Thank you so much. And big up LCFC. Yeah, I mean, when you get two veterans who have been around the block so many different times, and they're very savvy and shrewd and crafty in the ring, you normally don't get a good fight between two guys like that. But when you get two young guys, particularly heavyweights, who are flawed, who aren't technically at least defensively the best in the world, but the two big punches, chip on their shoulder, that's normally when you get a great fight. It's not about who the biggest names are necessarily in any division or in boxing. It's about style matchups. But big up LCFC for the super chat. Much appreciated. Big up Grizz D. Fight of the year so far, yep. Big up Matt Bryant. He says, big things still ahead for both guys. Big up Matt Bryant. GMS Nightmare says, Atama destroys Dubois. I think Atama beats Dubois. Yes, I do. Even before this fight, I thought Atama would beat Dubois. In fact, I thought Atama would beat Dubois before Dubois lost to Usyk for the second time. I was saying then that I think you could stick Atama in there against Dubois and he'll beat him. I've long felt that. Atavistic Intellect says, imagine Wardley on the cobbles, bro. Oh, no, yeah, Wardley on the cobbles is a madness. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. That was a wild fight, folks. Big up Matt Borgerson. He says, I don't want to see that again. Rest, Fabio. Rest. Indeed, Matt Borgerson. Big up D-Man. He says, I wouldn't mind Atama versus Triple D next. Me neither. And don't be surprised if we see it next, actually. Because Frank Warren keeps saying that Atama's going to fight for a world title before the end of the year. And that's kind of like the double-edged sword. It's like a Dubois win means we don't get to see Usyk Wardley. But a Wardley win would mean we probably don't get to see Wardley versus Atama. We almost certainly, in my opinion, will get to see Dubois versus Atama. I think that fight has a good chance of happening before the end of the year. Lucas says, hold that, Michael. Somebody said Michael Ofo was swinging. Did he stick one on Abdi? Ayed says, Davison has lost to Charles twice. That he has. Matt Borgerson says, we need to start asking questions about Ben, yeah? I don't think so. I mean, Fabio Wardley's a guy with no amateur fights who has beaten the likes of Joseph Parker, Justice Hooney, David Adalai, and various other fighters, and came very close to beating Daniel Dubois, dropped him twice. For a guy with such little experience, his team, not just Ben Davison, even his amateur coach that's still with him, they've done a fantastic job. This guy started boxing as an adult with no amateur fights. So I don't think we can criticize Ben Davison for this performance at all. Get under the circumstances. Do you know what I mean? Ben Davison's a guy who often gets picked on, but whenever his fighters win, nobody seems to praise him. They only criticize him when his fighters lose, which is a little unfair. We have to praise a trainer when their fighters win and not just criticize them when the fighters lose. I mean, Don Charles, right? I'm no big fan of Don Charles, but we have to give him credit for the wins that he's had with Daniel Dubois. Big up Matt Borgerson for the super chat. Copezilla says, Howard Foster usually is a safety first ref. Weird. Yeah, very weird indeed. It's almost as if they wanted Fabio Wardley to win. You know, it's like the house somehow wanted a Wardley win. Because they kept taking him to the corner to inspect his injuries, but that was actually just giving Wardley time to rest. Do you know what I mean? And there was a moment in the fight where Howard Foster stepped in as if he was going to take Wardley to the corner, but then didn't. So they gave Wardley every opportunity in the world to try and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. To a dangerous extent, actually. Big up Fernie G for the super chat. Big up Jake Ray. He says, imagine if AJ had 1/4 of the heart of Fabio Wardley. Indeed. AJ would be a menace. Big up Supersized Fries. He says, Moses KO's Triple D now, make it happen. Yeah, I think it will happen before the end of the year. As long as Itama comes through his next fight in August, no problem. I think it will happen before the end of the year or early next year. You'll see Itama in there fighting Daniel Dubois, and I think Itama will do him as well. Big up Matt Borges, and he says, can you believe that David Morell lost insane? Yeah, I mean, Morell has looked like trash ever since he moved up to 175. There's not one fight where he's looked any good in. He showed a lot of heart and toughness against Benavidez, but that's it. In terms of offense and defense, he was trash against Benavidez. He was trash against Hot Rod. He was trash in the fight that he had after Benavidez. And he looked worse still in the fight against Zack Chel. I mean, the beating that Benavidez put on him must have taken years off his career. So it was an all-time low for David Benavidez. Who are we going to see now? Zack Chel versus Callum Smith? Big up Mr. T for the super chat. He says, hey, are you guys not entertained? Yeah. Anyone not entertained by that would have to be insane or just not a boxing fan. But my thoughts right now are just with Fabio Wardley because he took a hell of a beating there. I hope he's okay. Yeah, because I've been around long enough to have seen a lot of bad situations in the ring over the decades. And it's normally in fights like that where a guy's dog tired and he's taking a protracted beating in a long fight where bad stuff can happen. So I really hope they get him to a hospital as quick as possible and give him the care and attention that he needs, because that was a terrible, terrible beating. Jupiter String says, overly muscular ones can't take punches. Mike Tyson was very muscular and he had a great chin. You know, boxing is very difficult to judge, you know, in terms of who can take a shot and who can't. Flare of Free says, Don Charles slapped the boxing inside Dubois. Well, Dubois has always been able to box. Oh, excuse me. Vin Beeful says, I missed the super chat. Let me try and get to that. I'm scrolling up here looking for Vin Beeful's super chat. Frank just announced a rematch clause. Big up Vin Beeful. Yeah, there can't be a rematch. At least not an immediate one. No way. No way. It was too brutal. Yeah, normally after a crazy fight like that, people would want to see a rematch, an immediate rematch. I wouldn't want to see an immediate rematch for the sake of Fabio Wardley's health. It was too brutal. It was too brutal. And it wasn't a controversial ending or anything. It was a conclusive ending. Apart from the two knockdowns, Daniel Dubois was outboxing Fabio Wardley throughout. Even as early as like the second round, he was outboxing Fabio Wardley. The third round. Yeah, I think they should move on. No need to run it back. Will Fabio Wardley even be the same after that? Because he took such a terrible beating and he went completely to the well. I mean, Fabio Wardley fought himself to a standstill. He fought until he was literally completely spent. He was almost unconscious on his feet at the end of the fight, still swinging. We got Matt Borger, and he says, if I could have any boxer's heart, I may take his. I mean, truth be told, if all fighters had Fabio Wardley's heart, the sport of boxing would be far too dangerous. Do you know what I mean? It would be far too dangerous if most boxers had a heart like Wardley. Simon Jordan being interviewed now at ringside. Cobra says Dubois went down the second time to avoid taking more punishment. Yes, he did. It was a strategic knee. He's taken many of those in his career, right? It was a strategic knee that he took for that second knockdown, yes. But it paid off. Big up everybody in the live chat. 788 concurrent viewers, 169 likes. Big up. Shout out to George the Last Dragon. He says, loss was inevitable. He always took too many hits. Well, yeah, of course, Fabio Wardley was always going to lose at some point in his career. The way he fights with all the shots he takes, it was just a matter of when and who was going to beat him. Okay, they're asking who they'd like to see. It's a viewers poll who they'd like to see Dubois fight next. 62% say Atalma, 8% Wardley rematch, 10% Fury, 6% Wilder, 12% Caballero. Big up FIFA Junior for the super chat. He says, was the corner too brave or too early to judge? It's hard because Wardley is known for pulling, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. And his corner know that. So with a guy like that, I mean, he's got this bizarre thing where he can turn a fight around, which he appears to be completely out in. It's touch and go, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. Given the way the fight ended, we can say yes, they should have pulled him out earlier, The referee stopped it in the end, but yeah, the corner should have pulled him out. We can say that now. I mean, you look at Ben Davison in the first Lee Wood fight with the Mexican whose name escapes me, and Ben Davison pulled him out. A lot of people thought prematurely. But here with Fabio Wardley, he let it go on and on and on and on and on and on. And after the fight, you're thinking, wow, he let him take too much of a beating. But in the moment, I don't know, you can kind of understand why he kept him in there, because he'd had his man down twice. So it's a tough one. I just hope that Fabio Wardley's okay. I hope he's healthy. Shout out to Matt Borgerson for the super chat. He says, Wardley might have gotten more luster from this by the UK fans, though. Putting yourself on the line like that is something that brings respect. Yeah, but he already had the respect before the fight. I mean, everybody knew the kind of crazy heart that Fabio Wardley had before this. There's simply no way that you can reach the level in boxing that Fabio Wardley's gotten to with no amateur background unless you've got a crazy heart. You just can't do it. So everyone already knew about Wardley's crazy heart. Will he get even more respect from the British fans after this performance? Yeah, but the respect level was already very high. Do you know what I mean? British fans already had massive respect for Wardley. Big up Matt Borgerson for the super chat. Matt says, honestly, Dubois could beat Caballero with the jab. I'd like to see the fight. It's a very different kind of fight than the Wardley fight, because Caballero is more technical than Wardley. He's a better boxer. He goes to the body, you know. He's better on the inside than Wardley is. It's a very different kind of fight. I'd like to see it. Big up Matt Borges, and he says, I'd favor Dubois versus Caballero, too hard a hitter. I think it's likely that Caballero fights Usyk next rather than Dubois. We might not get to see that fight anytime soon, but I'd certainly like to. Big up Matt Borgeson. Big up Cobra. He says, I predict Dubois will be 4-time heavyweight champion, but never a long reigning champ. Damn, 4-time. So who's going to beat him next, you reckon, Cobra? Grizz D says, do you think Triple D takes confidence from getting up twice? Again, I'm just going to reiterate what I've said before. Big up Grizz D for the super chat. I think Daniel Dubois is wired in such a way that when he's in a firefight, when he's getting hit, even getting dropped, but he's able to land his own shots, particularly the jab, he always shows heart in that type of scenario. It's when he's unable to land his own shots, but he keeps getting pinged. That's when he starts breaking down mentally. That's what we saw against Joyce. That's what we saw twice against Usyk. Because he hung in tough against Jarrell Miller. He hung tough against Filip Hrgović. So we have to see Daniel Dubois in that same situation again. Where, and that's one thing I did say before the fight in some of my early videos about this fight. In order for Daniel Dubois to quit, he has to not be landing his own shots. Is Fabio Wardley really the kind of guy that is going to freeze Dubois on the end of a jab and not allow him to land any punches? No. Right? If Wardley was going to win this fight, he was going to do it by, you know, just inflicting more damage in a firefight. But big up Grizz D for the super chat. Big up FIFA for the super chat. He says, Triple D now a British boxing great. Respect Fabio Wardley. Massive respect Fabio Wardley. Respect Daniel Dubois too. I mean, yeah, I guess you have to say Dubois is a British boxing great, you know? Britain hasn't had an enormous number of heavyweight champions over the decades. There was a massive gap of nearly a century between Lennox Lewis and Bob Fitzsimmons. After that, you had the likes of Frank Bruno, Herbie Hyde, but he held the WBO belt, which was lightly regarded in the 90s. Then you had David Haye. You had Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. Eventually Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley. So there hasn't been an enormous number of them over the past, 120 odd years. Somebody saying there's a rematch clause. Well, yeah, but I hope the rematch clause is not exercised by Fabio Wardley because it was a horrible beating that he took. And nobody should be surprised that there's a rematch clause because it was a voluntary defense for Fabio Wardley. Yeah. Having a rematch clause for the champion in a voluntary defense is standard procedure. What's not standard procedure and what really annoys me is when mandatory challengers who traditionally and contractually don't have to give the former champion a rematch if they beat him. A lot of those guys sign that right away and allow a rematch clause to be inserted into the contract, but a standard contract for a mandatory fight, there's no rematch clause. But this was not a mandatory fight. This was a voluntary defense by Fabio Wardley. He was giving Dubois an opportunity. And in situations like that, there's nearly always a rematch clause. Matt Borgeson says the slapping of Dubois seemed to work. I remember Ronnie Davis used to slap Chris Eubanks Sr. like that in the corner. I remember Chris Eubanks Sr. getting slapped around the face by Ronnie Davis, and Eubanks Sr. pointed to the other cheek and said, slap this one as well. Big up 2024 TD says, who would you match Triple D against next, Hatman? Well, from a fan perspective, I'd match him against Moses Atama next, or at least, Moses Atama next for him. Atama's going to have a fight in between, but I'd like to see Triple D versus Atama before the end of the year or early next year. But from a manager perspective, I wouldn't put Dubois in with Atama next. If I was managing Dubois, I would say, let me think. Let me have a look at the heavyweight top 10 right now. Particularly the WBO, because Dubois is now WBO champion. Let's have a look at it here. There's Jared Anderson for a voluntary defense. He could do that. He's number 6 for the WBO. You got Deontay Wilder, actually. That might be a good fight for, he's a washed up Deontay Wilder, but if he wants to get that name on his record, Wilder's there at number 7. Back at it, Jellov's at number 8, but there's no real reason to fight Jellov at this point. He's not looking particularly impressive. And he isn't exactly exciting either at this stage. Richard Torres is fighting Frank Sanchez. You got Victor Vikrist at number 10. I'm not sure whether Dubois is allowed to pick a voluntary defense out of the top 15 or just the top 10. It varies between the sanctioning bodies. Some sanctioning bodies allow you to pick within the top 10, others within the top 15. If he's allowed to pick within the top 15, Richard Riakporhe is number 12 with the WBO. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. Dubois versus Riakporhe. Shout out to Prav for the super chat. Much appreciated. He says, big up Hatman. I've been a long time subscriber and thank you for your content. First of all, do you actually regard Dubois as a world champion? Usyk beat him twice and gave up that belt. Well, he's a world champion, yes, but he's not the world champion. The world champion is obviously Usyk, as you say. He's already beaten Dubois twice. So everybody knows that that belt that Dubois has is just on loan. Until Usyk retires or somebody beats him, then Dubois is going to look like a caretaker champion. He's not going to look like a real champion. I mean, he won the title in the ring, right? He beat Fabio Wardley, but Wardley himself didn't win it in the ring, although people might want to say that the Parker fight was kind of like a de facto world title fight. So, yeah, Dubois won the belt in the ring this time, but he's a guy that Alexander Usyk has already beaten twice, as you say. So he's like a caretaker champion at the minute. No disrespect to him, but that's the way I think most people are going to see it. Big up Busy Clergy. He says Yoka. Yoka, the problem is Yoka's not ranked currently in the top 15 by the WBO, so he wouldn't be eligible for a title shot against Daniel Dubois currently. Big up George the Last Dragon. He says, what a career so far for Dubois. From next big thing to exposed hype job to redemption and now possible future legend. Could he go in the Hall of Fame? Oh yeah, he'd definitely go in the Hall of Fame because the bar of entry into the Hall of Fame is not particularly high. There are plenty of fighters in the Hall of Fame that were not great champions. So yeah, Dubois is definitely in the Hall of Fame. 2-time heavyweight champion. And yeah, he's had a very, very erratic career. I guess that's the best way you could describe it. And there's a lesson to be learned. It's a great comment there from George the Last Dragon. There's a great lesson to be learned there. Because fans have got this very dichotomous, most boxing fans have got this very dichotomous way of looking at boxing and looking at fighters. Either you're the real deal or you're a hype job. There's nothing in between. There's no shades of grey. It's black and white. Like, come on, man. There's loads of shades of grey. And Daniel Dubois actually proves that. Yeah, Dubois actually proves how many shades of grey there are in boxing. It's not you're either the real deal or a hype job. There's a massive amount in between those two extremities. Big up George the Last Dragon. Telstar says Dubois reminds me of Mora. In what sense? FIFA Junior says, I like Triple D versus Reactport, but isn't he with Shalom? Yeah, he is with Shalom. So that could be a problem in getting that fight made because Shalom and Frank Warren are not on good terms. Big up AA13. He says, Joshua's loss to Dubois in a weird way is aging better and better. Is it? I mean, the problem is the nature of AJ's loss to Dubois. Wardley lost in the 11th round and never touched the canvas. AJ lost in the 5th round and he was getting bounced up and down like a yo-yo. And he got knocked out cold. So, I mean, I get your point, but yeah, losing to Dubois isn't a necessarily big deal, but the nature of the loss, it was bad. In terms of the top fighters that Dubois has been in with, AJ fared the worst. But big up AA13. Big up GMS Nightmare for the super chat. He says, is Dubois above Fury in terms of legacy? His resume is better than Fury in my opinion. It's a subjective thing, but you could certainly not put Fury's resume head and shoulders above Dubois' resume. You couldn't put it head and shoulders above. He's beaten Klitschko, who was 38 or 39, Fury. And he's beaten Deontay Wilder 3 times. He beat a version of Dylan White that was knocked out cold by Povetkin 2 fights earlier. He beat Chisora 3 times. It isn't like Tyson Fury's got an amazing resume. He doesn't. Dubois has beaten Filip Hrgovic, Jarrell Miller, Anthony Joshua, Fabio Wardley. He's, at the very least, he's definitely in the same ballpark resume-wise as Fury is. It's just that Fury, because he's got a big mouth and because he's almost like a cult leader and he generates all this hype around him and all of these crazy narratives around him, he's managed to hoodwink and gaslight an enormous section of the boxing public into thinking that he's far greater than he actually is. That he's this legendary character, or this legendary fighter, should I say. I mean, he might be a legendary character in some people's eyes, but in terms of his fighting and wins and his resume and his career, you want to talk about overhyped and hype job? Well, Tyson Fury's a hype job. He's a very good fighter, a fantastic fighter, But people, after he beat Dillian Whyte, were saying he was the greatest heavyweight of all time. I mean, talk about overhyped. Greatest heavyweight of all time. After beating Dillian Whyte? And the same man 3 times in Wilder, that makes him the greatest heavyweight. I mean, dear, I've never seen people get so carried away. So, yeah, I mean, at the very least, you'll say Dubois' resume is well within the same ballpark as Fury's resume. Well within. Big up George the Last Dragon. He says, Spinks versus Mora at 175. That's a good fight. I'll go Spinks. I'll go Spinks on points. Big up George the Last Dragon. He says, AJ got dribbled and left with his butt in the air. Pause. Big up George the Last Dragon. But who would you have out of Spinks and Mora at 175? I'll go with Spinks on points. Joshua Hooker says, who's Fury? Yeah, we're calling him by his alias in this live stream. Fury, also known as Luke Partridge, or otherwise known as Luke Partridge. Jay says, what's up, Hatman? I'm late to the stream and I didn't watch the fight. I know Dubois won. How did it go? Did anything surprise you? The outcome didn't surprise me because, as I said before the fight, nothing would surprise me in this fight in terms of the outcome. Either man winning by KO early, either man winning by KO mid or late rounds, and somebody winning the fight on points wouldn't surprise me. It was so up in the air. That's why I couldn't pick a winner. What did surprise me in the fight, though, is that Daniel Dubois hit the canvas within the first 30 seconds. It might have been within the first 20 seconds. Yeah, Dubois was down from a big right hand from Fabio Wardley inside the first 20 seconds of the fight. That surprised me. I thought there's going to be fireworks in this fight, but I didn't expect Dubois to go down that quick. Okay, Tim says it was in the first 10 seconds. Yeah, that bit surprised me. Before I'd even gotten into the commentary, Dubois was already on the floor. Coppen says flash knockdown. Well, he was still a knockdown. It was a big shot. George the Last Dragon says, I've got Mora by KO, but it's a 55-45 fight to me. And for those who are not up to speed on what he's talking about, it's a fantasy matchup between Michael Spinks and Michael Mora at 175. And Michael Mora was a menace at 175, by the way. An absolute menace. He had to move up to heavyweight partly because he was struggling to get fights at light heavyweight. He was an absolute menace in that weight class and a tremendous puncher, very technically good. Big at the weight, obviously. Papa says the fight changed when Dubois started to use his feet. Yeah, using his feet and using his jab. Dubois is very good at bouncing in and out of range and then jabbing off the bounce. And once he started doing that and not being quite so gung-ho, yeah, that's when he got control of the fight. Because he was playing into Fabio Wardley's hands early doors, wasn't he? He was getting too close and trading up and all that kind of stuff. And Wardley loves all that. Once he got behind his jab and started using his feet, bouncing in and out of range, that's when he got things under control. And that's something I talked about pre-fight. I said, will Daniel Dubois outbox Fabio Wardley? I made a video about it a few weeks ago. Now, he didn't box as sensibly as he maybe could have. You know, especially early in the fight, he seemed to want to trade up, which you don't want to do with Wardley when he's fresh. But those knockdowns kind of knocked some sense into him, the 2 knockdowns. And after that, he settled down, got behind that jab, used his feet, and he was making Wardley miss by a mile. Time and time and time again. And Wardley wasted so much energy throwing all those haymakers. I was saying it in the first round even though he scored a knockdown, I was like, he needs to slow down on those right hands. He's putting too much behind him, and there's too many of them. It's all right if the majority are landing, but the vast majority were missing. Yes, cruiserweight was a thing in Michael Moore's time, but he completely skipped the cruiserweight division. He had no interest in it. So he moved directly from 175 up to heavyweight. But yeah, it was a thing. Holyfield was cruiserweight champion before Michael Moore. Was it before me? Yeah. Well, no, when Moore moved up to heavyweight, Holyfield was already there. So yeah, it would have been around the time when Moore was 175-pound champion, Holyfield was cruiserweight champion. And you had people like Dwight Carwee and various others at cruiserweight. So yeah, cruiserweight was definitely a thing, but Michael Moore wasn't interested in that. Big up Joshua Hooker. He says, Wardley versus Prime White, who do you think wins? It's a great fight. Big up Joshua Hooker for the super chat. I would edge Wardley. How about you? Somebody says, over the moon, we get to see a Usyk Dubois trilogy. Yeah, that's the downside to it, isn't it? I don't think that will happen. I think, based upon what Frank Warren has been saying over the past few months, he's going to move to make Itama versus Dubois before the end of the year or early next year. Tim says it's not going to happen, Hatman. Well, Frank Warren keeps on saying that Itama, and he's very bullish about it, and Frank Warren has a big stake in the heavyweight division. He keeps on insisting that Itama's going to fight for a world title before the end of this year. So who else could it be against? Because he doesn't have any control over Usyk. And yet he's so bullish about Itama getting a world title shot before the end of 2026. So it has to be Daniel Dubois. Tim Lowe says it's a smoke screen. Okay. Could be. We'll see. Big up AA13. He says, who would win out of Dubois and Caballero? It's a very, very tough fight to call. I might lean slightly towards Caballero, you know. I might, I mean, not based off his last performance, because I thought he looked poor last time out, but when Caballero's really on it, I might actually lean towards Caballero. Okay, Tennis says, Warren has lined up Hatama to fight Hrgovic and the winner to challenge Dubois. Makes sense. Big up Southpaw Boxer. He says, Hatman, what a great fight. Yep, it was a crazy fight. Lived up to, well, exceeded the expectations. And I've been saying for at least the past year, maybe more, that I think Hatama beats Daniel Dubois. Even before Dubois was beaten by Usyk in the rematch, I was saying I think Hatama can beat him. Last Son Superman says, Usyk no excuse to duck Caballero now that Wardley's out of the picture. Well, Turkey Yellow Sheik via Ring Magazine seemed to indicate that after Usyk is done with a kickboxer, talks will begin about a fight with Caballero, who's been his mandatory for quite a while now. So I suspect we'll get that next. I suspect Usyk will fight Caballero next. Big up AAA for the AA, excuse me, for the super chat. He says, I would prefer if Hatama wasn't rushed, but he's destroyed all the step-up opponents. Me too. I would prefer if he didn't fight for a world title later on this year. I think he can beat Daniel Dubois, but the problem is once you're at world level, there's no going back unless you want to vacate, and I don't think they will be looking to vacate. And there's no point. See, there used to be a point, at least for me, in Hatama winning a world title, then vacating just so he can break Mike Tyson's record. But of course, that record is no longer there. And I said that because I always thought he could beat Dubois. So if he goes in there, beats Dubois, breaks the record, he's not really ready, in my view, for world level. There's no need to rush him. But he could break that record just to make history and cement his legacy early. You give up the belt, you then continue learning, and then you fight for the title again a little bit later on. Okay, some people are going to be upset about it at the time, and oh, this is a gimmick, and he's broken. You know, a lot of Mike Tyson fanboys will be upset, especially. But if he then had a few more fights to develop himself and won a world title again, nobody would begrudge him doing what he did originally. They'd actually see it as a master stroke. So I was making a case for that a year or so ago. But since the Mike Tyson record is no longer there to be broken, what's the rush putting Daniel Dubois in a world title fight now? And it wouldn't make any sense rushing him to a title then having him vacate to learn a bit. It just doesn't make any sense. Take your time with him. Don't rush him to a world title. Let him get to at least 18-0 or 20-0. But according to Frank Warren, unless it's all a smoke screen, he's looking to put Hatama in a world title fight before the end of the year, presumably against Daniel Dubois. And of course, Frank Warren has been very close with the WBO ever since its inception. So if he wants to make an Hatama Dubois title fight, it'll happen. You know, Hatama's already ranked #1 by the WBO, and the WBO said that they are looking to make Hatama mandatory, even though he hasn't fought in a final eliminator, which is crazy. But again, that's the close relationship I have to assume between Frank Warren and the WBO. Big up FIFA, he says, in my opinion, Hatama would pick Triple D apart and enjoy himself. Yeah, I think Hatama beats Dubois and he probably stops him. John Fisher Choir says, Itama swerved Frank Sanchez. I'm not sure if he will take Dubois. Well, I don't necessarily think it was Itama that swerved him, but more his I mean, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the fighter. I'm sure if he really wanted to fight Frank Sanchez, it could have happened, but he kind of just leaves it to his team. Again, at the time when he didn't take the Frank Sanchez fight, he had less than, 13 fights? He shouldn't really be fighting somebody on Frank Sanchez's level with less than 13 fights, to be honest. So I don't really read too much into that. He's now beaten the likes of Dylan White and Jermaine Franklin. And if he gets past the Filip Hrgović, because that's what some people are saying it's going to be for him in the summer, if he gets past Filip Hrgović, could I see him fighting Dubois? Yes. And one of the reasons I could see him fighting Dubois is because he shared many, many, many rounds with Dubois in the gym, in sparring. And as far as I'm concerned, he gave Dubois the business. I agree with Double A. Well, he's asking, should Itama versus Hrgović be a final eliminator? I think so. If the fight happens, it should be a final eliminator. Big up 4JJA14 for the super chat. He says, Daniel started landing that beautiful left chopping shot just as Wardley loaded and telegraphed his right. It was basic boxing. You know, as other people have said, that's the difference between somebody who has good, sound, fundamental boxing skills and somebody who doesn't. Wardley was telegraphing that right hand from early on. Okay, it was fast in the early rounds, and so Dubois didn't quite get the timing of the right hand, and so he was getting clipped by it, also because he was being too aggressive. But after a couple rounds, again, because Wardley just kept loading up and loading up and loading up on that right hand to a ridiculous extent, all Dubois needed to do is just basic boxing. As soon as you see him loading up, stick a jab in his chest. He'll completely miss by a mile, and he'll fall off balance in the process because he's loading up so much. So just the basic fundamentals of when you see a guy loading up, trying to throw a bowling ball, a cricket ball, type of right hand at you, just stick a jab in his chest right near the right shoulder. You're going to knock him off balance. And he just did that time and time and time and time and time again. And Wardley was just missing by a mile. And that was tiring him out. So somebody's saying that Fury's record is far superior to Dubois on the world title fights he won. It's not superior. It's not far superior at all. You know, he's talking about email champs. Never mind how the belt was acquired. Look at the actual quality of the fighters. Klitschko was like 38 or 39 years of age. It was a good win, but it was a man nearly 40 years old. Okay? And as far as Deontay Wilder was one of the most overhyped heavyweight champions I've ever seen. I mean, massively overhyped and protected his whole career. And Fury, Frank Warren, Bob Arum actually helped PBC in the overhyping of Deontay Wilder. What the hell did Wilder ever do to be this amazing win on Tyson Fury's record? What did he ever do? It was one of the biggest, hype campaigns I've ever seen. And it was done in an extremely cynical way, whereby they attempted to freeze Anthony Joshua out rather than either of them fighting him. Let's just convince the public that he's rubbish. So fighting him is irrelevant. And the only belt that matters is the WBC. And it's the two best heavy. I mean, it was so cynical what they did. So no, I completely disagree. The Wilder wins weren't head and shoulders above anything Dubois has done. And okay, you can say the Klitschko win is better than any single win Dubois has on his resume. Maybe. But then Dubois beat Anthony Joshua. Okay, it wasn't a prime Joshua, but he did do that. He beat Hrgovic. He beat Miller. He beat Fabio Wardley. You know? I'm not necessarily saying that Dubois' resume is better than Fury's because it is subjective and it's debatable, but he's definitely in the ballpark. This idea that Fury's is far superior, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not at all. Dubois' resume is definitely in the same ballpark as Fury's resume, which has always been overhyped, Fury's resume. As I said earlier on, an example of how overhyped Fury's resume has always been is when he beat Dylan White, who just got knocked out cold by Povetkin 2 fights earlier. People were calling him the greatest heavyweight of all time. I mean, talk about getting carried away. How in the world did Fury at that point have a resume that would put him in the conversation for greatest heavyweight of all time? I mean, totally ridiculous. Again, I don't buy this notion that Wilder was the hardest hitting heavyweight of all time. He was a great puncher. But to say he's the hard, I mean, you actually never hear me say that Mike Tyson or George Foreman or Ernie Shavers or any of the great punchers you can think of was the hardest puncher of all time. You never hear me say that because it's impossible to know. What I can tell you is that there are guys out there who weren't great heavyweights who can punch harder than most of the hardest punching heavyweights ever, in my opinion. Because when you're dealing with guys of an enormous mass, 250, 60, 70 pound guys, there'll be guys out there that are just random club fighters and journeymen who, if you put them in front of a punching machine, they'd hit harder than Daniel Dubois or Zheli Zhang. So I could never sit here and agree that Wilder's the hardest hitting heavyweight. No, I don't agree with it. What I can say is that he was one of the most prolific punchers, one of the most prolific knockout artists as a heavyweight champion. Although his opposition wasn't particularly great. So being one of the most prolific knockout artists, heavyweight champions of all time, when you inspect his resume closely, it's like, would he have been that prolific if he was fighting quality opposition for the majority of that reign as WBC champion? Very questionable. Yeah, but it's irrelevant whether Dubois is the real champ or not. It's irrelevant. We're talking about the quality of the fighters that he's beat compared to the quality of the fighters that Fury's beat. Who held the belt and all that kind of stuff is irrelevant. Just look at the quality of the fighters he's beat compared to the quality of... Fury's resume is very shallow. He beat a 38 or 39-year-old Klitschko on points. Beat Wilder, who was one of the most protected champions in history. And other than that, what has he done? As heavyweight champion, what did he do? What, beat Dylan White, who got knocked out cold by Povetkin 2 fights earlier? Why is that an amazing resume? I don't get it. I don't get it. Whereas Dubois, either in title fights or non-title fights, he's beaten Miller, he's beaten Hrgovic, took their unbeaten records, by the way. Knocked out Anthony Joshua, destroyed him. He's done Fabio Wardley, who was unbeaten too. How many unbeaten fighters did Tyson Fury beat as world champion? So again, I'm not necessarily saying that Dubois' resume is better than Fury's, but it's in the same ballpark. It's not some big, different, huge gulf or something between the fighters. It's not. It's not. There you go. Encircled says Fury had 3 title defenses in total. Can you imagine? A guy with 3 title defenses, and people are trying to make out as though he's got this incredible resume. 3 title defenses. Yeah, he defended against Wilder in the rematch. Derek Chisora and Dylan White. That's right, yeah, 3 title defenses. That's it. Although, well, you could count the first Usyk fight as a title defense as well. It was a unification, but he was also defending his WBC title. So you could say he had 4 title defenses. But still, I mean, people are saying that means he's got an incredible resume. He had 3 successful title defenses. Let's put it that way. His 4th title defense was unsuccessful. That's right. Yeah, that was unsuccessful. So 3 successful title defenses. Nah, bro. As Jamaicans say, that no make it. Leo, big up Leo, he says, how was the referee performance in this fight? It's an interesting one because Howard Foster is infamous in the UK for prematurely stopping a number of fights, but in particular the first Carl Froch-George Groves fight. The problem is that Fabio Wardley had dropped Dubois twice earlier on in the contest, and he's got a long history of snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. And Dubois got a history of getting stopped, of capitulating. So as much as I can understand people criticizing Howard Foster's inconsistency, if I just take this fight in and of itself and forget about Howard Foster's history for a second, it's a touch and go kind of thing. Hindsight is always 20/20. Because of the beating that Fabio Wardley took and he ultimately got stopped, it's easy to look back and say, yeah, the referee should have stopped it earlier or the corner should have pulled him out. But in the moment, you know, it's like Fabio Wardley's one of those guys that can pull it out of the fire. So it's a really, really difficult one. Oh, as far as the gum shield stuff, yeah, one thing I will say though, is Howard Foster did appear to make a number of decisions in this fight that favored Fabio Wardley and gave him every opportunity to recover in certain situations, including when he kept bringing him to the corner to have his injuries inspected by the doctor, because the doctor kept allowing it to continue, and that was giving Fabio Wardley extra rest. And there was a moment with a gum shield, and there was other moments in the fight where the referee stopped it, and it seemed like he wanted to bring Wardley to the corner, but he didn't. Maybe he thought he heard the bell, or maybe he pretended that he thought he heard the, I don't know. But in that regard, yeah, the referee didn't have a great night. But as far as how long he let the fight go on, it's a difficult one. Armin said Fabio's corner had no answer. Well, here's the thing about Fabio's corner. Fabio Wardley is a guy with no amateur fights, who isn't a great boxer, who's a fighter with tremendous instincts, a big punch, very tough. He's athletic. You could put Manny Stewart in his corner and he'd still be making big fundamental mistakes. Okay? You can't turn a guy like that into a polished professional boxer in such a limited time frame when you're matching him that tough. It's not going to happen. Unless he's a really extraordinary, precocious talent, which he isn't, it's not going to happen. So there's not really much you can do with Fabio Wardley in the corner in a situation like that. He is who he is. The limitations are there. You're not going to be able to do much about it. In Circle put it perfectly. He said, after an 18-year career, Fury has the resume of someone who's been champion for 2 years. That's a whole fact. Okay, interesting take there from Afro Jam. He says, gambling companies won big by this fight going so many rounds. Interesting. I know the implications you're trying to make there, Afro Jam. I don't want to catch a lawsuit here, but that's interesting. You know, gambling companies often sponsor these events too, don't they? Avenues Roofing says, Fury has a resume similar to Eubank Sr. Not really. Eubank Sr. had way more world title fights. Way more. Although the majority of the world title fights that Eubank Sr. had, and I guess this is what you're getting at, were filler. He fought a whole heap of filler. But he did fight some quality guys along the way as well, not just Nigel Benn. There was Michael Watson. There was Graziano Rocchigiani, who was a very good fighter. Beat him in Germany. Sugar Boy Malinga. But yeah, I mean, Eubank Sr. had an enormous number of obscure title defenses, or should I say title defenses against obscure opponents. Yeah, he and Barry Hearn milked the WBO title and squeezed every bit of juice out of it that they could. They definitely did that, for sure. And that's what Eubank Sr. actually wanted to do with his son. He wanted his son to hold that IBO belt and go on the road like he did, fighting obscure opponents for years and years and years. Yeah, that's what he wanted Junior to do with the IBO. The Manny Fresh says, I think some guys can have good fundamentals despite being a limited amateur background, Tim Witherspoon being one. Yeah, Tim Witherspoon's a good example, but he's the exception, not the rule, you know? The exception doesn't disprove the rule. Generally, guys with limited amateur background have poor fundamentals. Relatively poor fundamentals. In 95% of cases, if we're going to pull out an arbitrary percentage. Game says, have you noticed that since Kevin Lorena dropped Dubois with a top of the head shot, people have been training for it? Yeah, and even before the Kevin Lorena fight, I pointed out years ago that he got hurt against Richard Latte, but nobody seemed to realize it at the time. And it wasn't in one of the big exchanges. It was at the very start of one of the rounds. Latte comes out and he cracks Daniel Dubois on top of the head, and Dubois' back leg buckles. But Latte himself doesn't even realize it. And so the moment passes without the commentators or Latte or anybody realizing that Dubois was hurt. But Dubois gets cracked high on the head, his back leg buckles, and then Dubois starts backing off. Which is what Dubois typically does when he gets hurt, he'll back off. And yeah, it was a shot right on top of the head against Latte that hurt him. It wasn't in one of the big exchanges because he gets clipped by Latte on the chin in a big exchange. I'm not talking about that moment. It's at the start of one of the rounds. Latte comes out, lands a right hand high on Dubois' head. His leg goes, his back leg goes. Nobody seems to catch it. And so I think it's indisputable now that Dubois is more vulnerable to shots on the temple and high on the head than he is to shots on the chin. Not that he can't be hurt with shots on the chin, but he seems to take them better than shots high on the head. I mean, obviously Usyk dropped him heavy last time out with a shot to the chin. Afro Jam says Ben Whittaker is an embarrassment. Do you care to expand on that? Tim Lowe says David Morell is finished. And I'll reiterate what I've already said several times in the stream. Morell has looked like trash in every fight he's had at 175. It's one of the most extreme examples of a fighter apparently turning to absolute garbage overnight after moving up one weight class. No, that's not true. Dubois did get hit against Kevin Lorena for the first knockdown. He gets hit high on the head against Lorena. And his knees buckle and he goes down. Did he develop a knee issue in the course of the knockdown? Maybe. But no, that knockdown, or all the trouble started when Lorena caught Dubois high on the head. It wasn't like he didn't get hit and then he randomly went down because of a knee issue. No, that's not true. He gets hit clearly with a shot high on the head. His back leg buckles and he takes a knee. What did I think of the Don Charles slap? Big up June Sports. The Don Charles slap reminded me of what Ronnie Davis used to do to Chris Eubank Sr. in the corner back in the days. Eubank Sr. used to call Ronnie Davis the pit bull, and he would often slap him to wake him up in fights and get him going. FIFA says, Benavidez probably destroyed his punch resistance. Yeah, could well be. Kind of like Jeff Lacey had his punch resistance destroyed by Joe Calzaghe. Yeah, again, as I said earlier on, I'm no big fan of Don Charles, but I have to give credit where it's due. He's done good work with Daniel Dubois. He has. He's done good work with him. Okay, Afro Jam is saying Ben Whittaker is a disgrace because Morell would have been an easy win. But hindsight's always 2020. And okay, the music is gone again. We're having this issue. Let me see if I can fix it, because last time I was unable to. Let's see if I can fix it this time. One second, folks. I did have this issue a few streams back where the music just randomly went. Because in OBS, the music is still playing here. Can you guys hear the music now or not? Okay, music is playing. All right. Managed to start it again. Okay, cool. Might be coming in a bit hot with the music. Just turn it down slightly. Kieran says the music didn't go till you tried to fix it. All right, peeps, I'm going to wrap this one up. It has been a great night, a great fight between Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois. I said before the fight that Fabio Wardley is either a crazy genius or a crazy fool. Either way, he's crazy. We found out that it was ultimately foolish to take on Daniel Dubois as a voluntary in his first defense as heavyweight champion. But even though it was a foolish choice, it was tremendously entertaining for fans to watch. For Wardley, it was foolish in the sense that he loses his title in the first defense. He could have gone a more sensible route. From a fan perspective, it was great, but I'm talking about from a longevity perspective for Fabio Wardley, financially and health-wise. Diving straight into the fire in your first defense as champion like that is admirable, but again, from a business perspective, you wonder why you would do that. People say, well, maybe the payday wouldn't be there if he took a couple of easy defenses. I reckon it would be. The heavyweight division is full of paydays. If you're going to give somebody a voluntary crack at your title, there's plenty of guys you could give it to. You could fight Fury. You could fight AJ. You could fight Atama. You could still fight Dubois. You know, plenty of guys you could fight. You could unify with Usyk. That's a payday. For some strange reason, he chose to fight Daniel Dubois. I guess he felt like he could bang him out early. He tried to and came relatively close to doing it, but ultimately it was a foolish choice. I hope he's okay. But even if he's okay, as far as, you know, no serious brain injuries or anything, that fight is going to take years off his career. So, yeah, I'll leave it there. Big up everyone for joining the conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. A special shout out to those who donated via Super Chat. There was a lot this evening. KO Kid Boxing, FIFA Junior, The Sweet Maths, Luca, LCFC, Matt Borgerson, Busy Clergy, Atavistic Intellect, Cash Machine. Big up Cash Machine, by the way. I don't think I read out his super chat. He says Usyk is doing the infinite undisputed glitch. Big up Cash Machine, Copezilla, GMS Nightmare, Matt Bryant, Grizz D, Vin Beeful, Danny Spanish French. Did I read out Danny Spanish French's super chat? Apologies if I didn't. He says that was a massacre in every sense of the word. D-Man, big up D-Man. Fernie G, also Jake Ray, Supersized Fries, Mr. T, George the Last Dragon, a Cobra, big up Cobra, 2024 TD, Prav, AA13, GMS Nightmare, Joshua Hooker, if I haven't bigged him up already, 4JJA14, Ben Scott. I think that was the final super chat from Ben Scott. Let's just double check here. Ben Scott says, I hope no big fighters go near Davison after that. I don't think I actually responded to the super chat, but I think Davison gets a bit of a harsh rap, to be honest. People focus on whenever his fighters lose, but don't give him credit for when his fighters win. This was the first fight that Wardley's lost. He did beat Joseph Parker. He did beat, so many fighters in the past. Right, Justice Huni. So, as much as we can criticize Ben Davison for Wardley losing here, don't we have to praise him for Wardley winning against Parker and Huni and the other fighters when Ben Davison was in his corner? Fraser Clark, thank you in the rematch. So, it is what it is. But big up Ben Scott for the super chat. And shout out to everybody else for joining the conversation. Until next time, take care out there. Be good. I'll catch you on the other side. I'm out. Oh, and hang on, because I'm here for the F3. Who took a swing at Michael Ofo? Was it Don Charles' son? Abdi, aka George Fox? Can somebody confirm who took a swing at Michael Ofo? I want to try and find some footage of that. Who took a swing at Michael Ofo in the ring after the fight? Nobody? Okay, I'll ask somebody in my Element group. Someone said it was Daniel's brethren. So it wasn't Don Charles' son. All right. Anyway, over and out.